Today on the Let's Go Outside podcast, I'm joined with Carolyn. She's a mom of two boys who lives in Manitoba, Canada, and they just got back from a 5-month trip to South America. I got totally wrapped into all of her stories and talking to her about travel. She is such a fun mom. Their whole family is passionate about sustainable travel and eco-friendly travel, so she'll share about little swaps that they made that could be better for the environment. And so she's really passionate about taking care of our planet, and I really think that you're gonna enjoy this episode like I did. Welcome to Let's Go Outside, a podcast bringing moms together to chat about the raw, unfiltered reality of doing the exploring we love after having kids. No matter your comfort level of adventuring with the little ones, this is a space to have honest conversations about the real struggles of getting out the door with the kiddos. I'm Danica, a mama living in a small mountain town who's totally obsessed with healthy food and taking my kids outside every single day. I professionally guided backpacking trips in the Canadian Rockies, and I'm certified as a Leave No Trace instructor. On the show, you'll hear real experiences from other moms, plus tips on gear, trail snacks, and the best practices in the wilderness. Whether it's hiking, camping, backpacking, skiing, or traveling the world you want to do more of, this is your place to learn, find encouragement, and strip away any comparison. Come embrace both motherhood and the outdoors. Stick around. This is your place. Welcome to the Outdoor Mom Club. Welcome to the Let's Go Outside podcast. Today I'm so excited to talk to Carolyn Regier, and she is joining us from Manitoba, right? I got that right?
That's right. Yeah, you did.
Oh man, I actually have not been to Saskatchewan or Manitoba, so I feel like my geography is not super up there with those provinces. I'm so sorry. That's really embarrassing.
Yeah, no, you know what? I feel like when I go somewhere, then I start learning about that area, right? So I understand.
Totally. Yes, I know. We really need to, I need to go past Tabor, Alberta. That's the farthest east I've been, I think, or Dinosaur Provincial Park.
Oh,
I mean,
nice.
I've flown into Ontario, but that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. Would you tell our community a little bit about who you are, who's in your family, and what kind of exploring you like to do?
Yeah, sure. That's great. So in my family, there's myself, and then there's my partner, Chris, and we have two boys that are 9 and 7. And we're from the prairies in Manitoba, and we love our province so much, and we love traveling around it and adventuring. We also love to go out west where you guys are, and also in the States too. And then just recently, we've also been traveling as well. But I think one of the things that we really love to do is biking. That's one of our favorite things. So whether that is just going to school or going on adventures, we love to bike. So we're always outside, but if our kids could choose what they wanted to do, it would be biking.
Yeah, that's so special. And did you guys start biking from a really young age?
We did, yeah. We used the little Strider bikes to start off with, which was so much fun. And they could just start at I think maybe 1.5 to 2 years old, and they were really slow and steady, but they're almost now getting faster than me, which is a little scary. So I need to really work hard at getting fast.
So that's the stage I'm just about to get into, where it's I am slower than my children.
Yeah.
We'll see. Okay. Today we are going to first jump into how to travel on a budget, because that is something that you are really familiar with, as well as sustainable and eco-conscious travel. And I'm excited to talk to you more about this, because this is something that I haven't talked a lot about, or it hasn't been on my mind a lot. And so I'm really excited to talk to you about this. As we jump into this, do you want to share how long you've been traveling with your kids and a few of the places that you've gone?
We started traveling with our family when my partner and I, Chris, were just traveling, and we were actually living overseas. So we were living in Morocco, and we had our firstborn son there. And so we just knew that we wanted to travel when we had kids, and so we just did it. I know that there's a lot of people that would say kind of when you have kids, then things end, right? You can't travel anymore, and you can't have fun anymore, and you can't go on adventures. we were pretty clear on, no, these are important things that we want to do. And so we did it. So when I was 7 months pregnant, we went on a hike, and it was up in the Atlas Mountains in Morocco. And we went to a Berber village, and we were walking up the mountain, and there was like these ladies, Berber ladies in their beautiful garb, in their beautiful traditional clothing. And they were carrying like sticks or hay or something behind them, these huge bundles. And they were walking up the mountain, and we were kind of just walking beside each other, and they saw that I was pregnant. I've got a huge belly, I'm 7 months pregnant, and they're kind of pointing at me and they're smiling, and we're just all like, we're having a connection, even though I don't speak I can speak a little bit of Arabic, but that's about it. I can't speak one of the Berber languages. So it was a fun connection to have with them as being a first-time mom, but also just to travel around and experience life. So that was a lot of fun. But yeah, so we spent our son's first year traveling around Morocco. We got to go on hikes, so I felt very accomplished. We had done a 16-kilometer hike, and our son was maybe 7 or 8 months old. So I felt pretty like, wow, we did it, like here's some things that people are saying you can't do, and here we are doing it. Mm-hmm. And then we also took our son, or I did, so I had to do a solo trip. So I had to go from Casablanca, Morocco to Marrakesh, and we went on the train. It was like a 3-hour train, and it's like super hot, but I had him, and he sat on my lap, and we just looked out the window and had a great time. So those were kind of the beginnings of traveling with kids and with babies, which I loved. And then also, since Morocco is so close to Europe, we did a lot of trips to Europe. So did a ferry, and we went to Spain, and we loved Spain. And then also we went to Malta, and I think you have been there too, right? Mm-hmm. So I think we had maybe our 6-month-old there. We just kind of walked around the town, and then also went to like the natural arch that was there. I think it fell down, right?
Oh, I don't know. The natural arch or the national arch? Yeah, the natural.
No, natural. There's this natural arch that we have a picture of, and we found out like a year or two later that it collapsed or something. It was so sad.
We did get to see some arches, but they have so many different features around the water that I bet you there is a couple arches.
Yeah. That's cool. Yeah. And then we also went to Sofia, Bulgaria as well, and that was a really nice place. And we went during winter with our son would have been about 4 months old. And I just found that traveling with a baby was actually quite awesome. I think maybe I thought it would be hard to do that with a baby, but they were always in our carrier. He was always in our carrier, and then off we went, and just had to feed him and diaper changes, and then they were just always with you. So I really enjoyed traveling with a baby.
Totally. Especially before they can start crawling. I think that's like the best age to see things with a baby. It's so fun, and they're safe because they're with you, and it's all okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's pretty incredible that your son was born in Morocco. Mm-hmm. I just love that. That's such a fun fact. It's my husband and I have a goal. I really, really want to go to Iceland, and he really wants to go to Morocco.
Oh yeah.
We kind of are always like, who's going to get to go to theirs first? But we haven't really we could just book it, but it's kind of like we're kind of seeing what's going to happen first naturally. So, but I love always hearing about Morocco because I'm getting more and more excited to go with Daniel one day to Morocco. So that's really cool.
You could probably just do both, right? Like get to get to one place and then get to the other.
Yes, totally. I mean, it's on the way. Come on.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Easy. So you were just on quite a long trip with your family. Tell us more about that trip and give us maybe the overview.
Sure. So we have been saving money, and we haven't been doing the traditional international travel for a while because we've been saving money. We have a family of 4, so things cost a little bit more when you have to pay for 4 tickets rather than 1 or 2. So we just came back from a 5-month trip to South America, and we went to, let me see if I can rattle it off. We went to 8 different countries. So we started off in Chile, and we ended in Ecuador. So we did Chile, Argentina, Uruguay, Brazil, Paraguay, Bolivia, Peru, and Ecuador.
Wow.
Yeah. We have like so many highlights, so many fun things that we did. But if I had to like whittle it down, I have a few things I would say. Hiking in the Patagonia Mountains was amazing, both on the Chile side and Argentina side. We learned how to surf. I mean, Chris learned how to surf in Morocco, but the three of us had never surfed, so we surfed in Uruguay and Brazil and Peru. Of course, the kids were like amazing at it, and I was like just barely could get on.
I know.
Yeah, and
It's hard.
It is. Have you done it?
I have done a little bit of it, and I'm so impressed when you see those moms surfing with their pregnant bellies, or, out there with their kids on their board. I'm like, that is a skill.
Yeah.
I always have a dream in the back of my mind that one day I'll like have that surf season of my life. We'll live right by the ocean, but I'm just so impressed right now.
Yeah. And I was so impressed. Our kids just hopped up and then they could surf. And that was great. It was just so much fun. We did a few biking trips as well, day biking when we were in different countries. So one of them was in Ecuador. There's a volcano called Cotopaxi, like like the company Cotopaxi, right? So we went with a company and we drove up the volcano, and then we biked down it and we biked around it. And that was just so much fun to do that.
I've been to Cotopaxi.
Oh, you have?
Yeah.
Did you climb all the way up?
No, I got altitude sickness. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did hike a little bit around there. I have relatives in Ecuador, so I've been there twice. That's kind of a special place to me. But I love hearing about Ecuador.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a good time there. Yeah, and another few things, like we were in Paraguay and we got to stay in a place where there's like research and scientists that work there. And so we were there for a few days, and one day we got to go with the scientists to see the howler monkeys, and they're doing research on howler monkeys.
Wow.
So it's just fascinating to hear like what they're doing, how they're like following different groups of howler monkeys around, and they would tell us like this noise is maybe they're communicating, or maybe they're angry, or they have names for the group of the monkeys, and then also names for each individual. And it was just really neat to be part of that as well. We weren't just sightseeing, or our kids could get pretty bored with seeing the next church in the plaza, but when we could be out in nature and exploring, then they love doing that.
Wow, I have so many questions from what you just said. How did you connect with the scientists?
It was actually in the Lonely Planet, that one.
Okay.
So we just found it. It just said, like, if you want to do something different, this is a way that you can connect. And a lot of times this organization has like research students. So students that are doing their PhD. So they come for a few weeks or a few months, and they learn how to do kind of scientific methods and how to write a research paper. And so they have scientists that are living and working in Paraguay, and then they have a bunch of people that come and volunteer and do their PhD. And then they also have people like us that just come in for a few days that get to learn. And like one day we got to go, it was called frogging, and it was like late at night, and we got our flashlights, and there's about maybe 10 of us, the scientists, researchers, students, and then us. And there was a paper, and we had to identify different frogs that were in this little creek. And like my kids just loved it. They were just seeing like little frogs hopping around and trying to identify them. So it was a lot of fun.
What a cool learning experience for your kids. That's incredible. Yeah. So that makes me wonder, were you doing school on the trip?
We did a little. So a 9-year-old and a 7-year-old. We tried to keep up with some reading and writing, and also some math. And then everything else they're just learning, right? They're learning about each country and culture and food and frogging and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, we did a little bit. We tried to, we needed some down days. We weren't always going, but we'd have some down days where we would be doing a little bit of school.
Yeah. And I think that the social skills and the learning about the different culture is like, you can't get that any other way than traveling with your family in a safe, vulnerable like group. I just think that's incredible to be able to do. I think there's a season of our life where maybe that's more important than going to school, I think. So I think that's really, really awesome that you were able to do that.
Yeah.
So cool. And did you and your partner work remote, or were you able to take time off work?
Yeah, we were both able to take time off work. Yeah. So we just didn't have to we didn't have to deal with what do I need to do for work or anything like that. It was so laser focused, which was nice. I mean, we were constantly doing research on where we were going to go next and where we're going to stay. And like, it is very busy, but at least it was just like laser focused. Now that we're home, we're just like, our house and then our jobs and our kids. And there's just so many things to think about. Whereas like when we were traveling, it was like one thing. We're traveling, we have to figure out transportation, where we're going to stay, food and activities. And that's it. It was kind of nice.
Yeah. Yeah. I got pretty fatigued of that. Like on our last trip, I think we were gone 12 weeks. Mm-hmm. And at the end, I was like, I don't want to look at Airbnb. Give me a break for a year, or like any booking website. I am booking a trip right now. I'm going solo to the UK for a wedding. And I'm just like, I don't want to look at a hotel website. So I'm still kind of like, give me a little bit longer of a break from this, because you do spend a lot of time looking at like what's the cheapest but the best option. Yes. I don't know if you felt that.
Totally. Yeah. Like, why did we just spend 2 hours and we still haven't gotten anywhere, right? Like, we're looking at the reviews and yes, you just go down a rabbit hole of where do we stay and all like, we want this, but we won't get that. And constantly. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man. Okay. Well, as we, I know you have some tips on how to cut costs. And so maybe this will take us into you sharing about that, but I'm curious about transportation, how you got around, and maybe did you have the route plan figured out before you got to South America?
So we had like a rough route that we wanted to do. We knew we wanted to start kind of in the middle and then kind of go south and then kind of come back up. But the day that we left, we had 3 days booked.
Okay.
And so we just were like, okay, we haven't traveled with our kids in a while. We don't know how they're going to travel. Are they going to just like hate it, love it? What's going to happen? So we had accommodations in Santiago, Chile, and that's all we had for the 3 days. And then we had some ideas, but nothing planned. Yes. So we were in Santiago for 3 days. It was so hot. We left in February from Canada, so it was like -20. And then we got to Santiago, and there was like a hot spell, of course. And so it was like 35, 36 degrees. So it was such a shock to our system. But we're like, okay, we need to get out of the big city and go somewhere else. That's not so hot. But yeah, so we kind of had a vague overview, and then just every week to 2 weeks, we were planning what was next is what we kind of did. So I know some people would not be able to travel like that. And I think also if you're just traveling for a short amount of time, like for 2 weeks or a month, you do like, I would probably have more things in place. But since we had so many months, we had 5 months, we could decide, oh, maybe we actually don't want to go here. Or we talked to this traveler and they said this was a really cool place. So like Brazil was not actually on our itinerary at all, but we actually ended up going there for a week. And that's one of our highlights is the beaches in Brazil. So it was fun that we could be spontaneous and not always plan.
I love that. Yeah, I think there is a certain type of person who finds that exciting and enjoyable. And I think my husband has really pushed me into that more, and challenged me in that area. And now I'm okay with it, but it definitely is, you have to talk yourself through, like, it's okay. We don't know where we're going to stay, but we're safe. We're fine. We're all together. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so how did you travel between the countries?
Oh, right. So we tried to limit our flying for not only for cost, but also for the environment. Flying isn't the best for greenhouse gases, so we try to bus the as much as we can. There's not a lot of trains in South America, which is too bad, because I know like Europe and places like Asia have some really good train systems, but busing was amazing, so we bused almost everywhere. We took a few flights in the continent, but mostly we were busing. So I love stats, and so I figured out that we bused a total of 12,500 kilometers.
Whoa.
And so yeah, we just went everywhere, and at first we didn't know how long our kids could be on a bus, so we started off pretty slow, like small amounts, like, okay, let's go from one city to another city. That's a 5-hour bus ride. Okay, can our kids do it? Okay, yes, they can. So then we kept like going increment, like a little longer bus, a little longer bus, a little longer bus, and we just realized our kids could totally do it. All they did was listen to podcasts for hours on end And it was a great experience for us and for them.
Do you have one of those headsets that connects them to the same phone?
No, so we had two different devices for our kids, some old iPhones, and so they had their own headphones, which I found like we knew that would be a really good idea to sometimes to get that noise. We got noise canceling headphones for both of them, which really was helpful because sometimes they even just they didn't listen to anything. They would just have their headphones on. Even sometimes I used it. I could like one time it was nighttime on the bus and someone was snoring so loud I couldn't sleep. So I was just like, I need something. So I put on one of their headphones and I could fall asleep again. But that seems to have gone really well for us, is listening to podcasts. And one kid gets car sick, so he can't like read a book. Mm-hmm. He can't just like play with things and read a book. So that worked. Yeah.
Yeah. I would note on the headphones, that's really good that you got the noise canceling ones. I ended up by accident on a whim bought my son headphones, but they only go a certain amount of loudness. I don't know how I would say that.
Yeah.
But because it's like a kid's headset. Yeah. But because of that, often when we're in the car, just the hum of everything or in the airplane, it's too loud that he actually can't hear it. So I feel like for anyone listening, get the noise canceling ones so that you can actually hear something, and not the ones that block your kids' volume limit, because I mean, I don't want it to be super loud for them, but I think the noise canceling thing would be the key to like get that to work well. That's awesome.
And we had that with our youngest too. He had a kid's headphones and he had been complaining that he couldn't hear it. And this was before a trip, like we were just traveling like the summer before, and he's like, I can't, like in the van, like I can't, it's too, like I can't hear it well. So we're like, okay, we need to get ones that he can actually hear. Otherwise then we're just struggling, right?
Totally. It's like frustrating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you want to walk us through ways to cut costs while traveling as a family?
Sure. I mean, so like transportation, that's a big one that I've already kind of said. In South America, and I'm assuming in other places too, there's some technology's gotten better, and there's some great apps out there that you can find buses and find where it's going and how much it is. And they've got like great air conditioning, and they have way better space and leg room and reclining than an airplane does. Also, accommodations is something where we definitely cut costs. So I should first preface this with, I have been very budget my whole life. So traveling in my 20s and then meeting Chris, he's also very frugal and we're very budget friendly. So like this is where I have been in my 20s traveling in India with two other friends, and I found a hotel, like just a room, and it was $1. So I try to find these places, and maybe it wasn't like it was definitely not the nicest space or room, but it was $1, so we did it. We don't have a lot of money. We're traveling students, right? Yeah. But we still continue to make those choices so that we can do other things. We only have a finite amount of money, and so for us, it's kind of like, are we going to spend it on a luxurious place to stay, or do we want to spend it on a fun activity? And for us, we have to make those choices. So we always end up going, you know what? We're just going to be in our accommodation for nighttime, and then in the day we're traveling. We don't need a big space. We don't need to have the best of everything in the space that we're going to sleep. So we can kind of cut costs that way. So also another thing which we did was we tried to stay away from hotel because we wanted to make sure we had a kitchen or a place that we could make food. Because again, if you're traveling a lot and you're eating out a lot and you have a family or a 4 or more, then that can get quite expensive. So we did a lot of eating in, buying groceries, finding places that had either a kitchen or like a hostel that had a shared kitchen to make our food. So that really, really helped us with traveling on a budget.
That's awesome. That is something that we have learned too, and I think I always, like I said before, try and find the best bang for the buck. Like, how long can I search to find the best simple kitchen and save money at the same time? It's always a toss up. But
yeah,
how long were you staying in an accommodation that you booked? Were you packing up quite a bit?
Yeah, it depended. I feel like we could go like a few weeks on just like 2-3 nights, and then we'd go somewhere else.
Okay.
But then after a few weeks of that, then we would get pretty tired. And then we would be like, okay, let's be stationed for a week. And then we'd stay for somewhere for a week. And sometimes, which was unfortunate, we would be able to, like, sometimes you see the pictures of an accommodation, you're like, oh, this looks good. And then you actually get there and it's not. So we had a few times where we're like, we booked for a whole week and we wish we didn't. And then there's some places that we're like, oh, this was a great place for 3 nights. We wanted to extend, and sometimes we could, and then sometimes we couldn't. So sometimes we'd be in a city, like where were we? We were in Lima in Peru, and we were there for 5 days, but we had to go to 2 different accommodations because we kind of weren't super excited about the first one. So we just stayed for 3 nights, and that's all we booked for. That we were hoping we could stay longer, but it ended up being, oh, it's not the greatest place. There was so many just little knickknacks everywhere in this accommodation. And we're like, we don't want our kids to touch all these little horses and little bottles. And, like they like to play and run around and throw a pillow sometimes, right? So we're like, oh, if we accidentally like crash into something in the wall, then like we've ruined this person's house or whatever. So yeah, we ended up having to go to another accommodation. But yeah, I would say a few days we would spend, and then about a week. I think the longest was a little bit over a week is where we would stay stationary in one place.
Okay. And what websites were you using to book a place?
It was a mix. We did use Airbnb, but I think that by the end, or like booking.com or Hostel World. But by the end we realized, what, we can Google places and find the accommodation there. And then from there you can, they used a lot of WhatsApp is used in South America, like a lot. So a lot of places will have a WhatsApp and they'll have the phone number. And so we would just like send them, say, hey, do you have space open from this date to this date? And then they would say yes, no, whatever. Then you kind of cut out the third party websites. And that not only benefits you because you don't have to pay for that website that's hosting and telling you where to go, but it also helps the local business and the local accommodation because they also don't have to pay to be on that website, right? So that's another way that you can cut costs that we kind of figured out midway to the end that we should do more of that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is similar to what we did in Cuba, I would say. There was just ladies standing on the side of the road saying, do you want to I don't know, maybe you experienced that. And they're just like, this is the picture of my house. Do you want to come stay?
I didn't have that in South America, but in Morocco we did. Yeah. That's awesome.
You got to adapt to the country you're in. And I love that you did that.
Yeah.
With WhatsApp. Was there anything else you wanted to say about cutting costs with family? Maybe did you touch on activities or tours? Do you want to share about that?
Sure. Sorry. Yeah. So I would say for activities and tours, be intentional on what you want and what your family wants, what your kids want, because you can Google places and they give you, 100 things to do in this city, or you go on Instagram and you can get such FOMO from people because they're doing such amazing things. I mean, we use those resources to help us, guide us about things that we wanted to do, but we knew we couldn't do everything. And so we just really had to hone in on what do I want to do, what does Chris want to do, what do the kids want to do. Sometimes they were the same and sometimes they were different. And then other things we kind of just had to let go. Like, okay, we are not going to go do this. I wish we could. It's just not in our budget, or we want to save the money to do something else that we really want to do as well. Lots of activities that you can do that are free. So like if you are staying near the ocean, then you just go to the beach, right? Like how many days did we just go to the beach and just like hang out and play in the sand and the water? That was just so much fun. So that was just a free activity. Sometimes there's museums that have free days, like every Sunday or every Sunday of the month or something like that. So we did a little bit of that, trying to look to see what's free around the city's playgrounds. Like kids love playgrounds, and there's lots of different playgrounds, different styles. So our kids experienced a lot of that. And what else? And I think back to the being intentional in what you want. Example of that would be for us was we were in Bolivia and we wanted to see the salt flats. So it's the biggest salt flats in the world. And most of the information that we were getting was saying that it's a 3-day tour. And So if you're doing 3 days, you're getting accommodations with that, you're getting food, you're getting everything, you're getting the tour and the activities. And for 4 people, that was just really costly. And I was like, I'm not sure I want to spend that much money to see the salt flats, but I really also want to see the salt flats. So we kind of did our research and we realized, you know what, there's also a 1-day tour, and not as many people do the 1-day tour, but just because people are all doing the 3-day tour doesn't mean that for our family, maybe we could do the 1-day tour. So that would cut down on our costs like immensely. So we did the 1-day tour and we are so happy with it. We don't think we missed out on anything. We got to see the salt flats. So you're just seeing like just white salt for like mile upon mile. And then we were doing the perspective photos, which was a lot of fun. And there's also the train cemetery that we got to see, which is just like literally trains. They're super old and they're all scattered around and you can climb up on them. It's very interactive. And then they had lots of statues as well of salt. And so we could climb up on these statues of salt. There was a pyramid of salt. And then there was a maze as well, a salt maze. And so like I've done a corn maze before, I've done a snow maze before, but I'm like, I haven't done a salt maze before. So we just spent a full day of experiencing the salt flats and we were not disappointed. We were so happy with that. And with the 3-day tour, they had like lots of other things that you're going to see, but some of the things were like, oh, I don't know if our kids are going to enjoy it. Like, are they going to enjoy seeing different pools of water? One was really blue and one was really green. I'm like, I don't know if they're going to enjoy that. Or there was a geyser that we could go see. And we were kind of like going through like, okay, if we see a geyser, we know that it's really smelly. Like, you know, it smells like rotten eggs, right? And we might have one kid that is very sensitive to smell. So we're like, I think that is going to really disgust him. And then we've just spent a whole bunch of money to go see something that he's not going to be able to go see. He'll want to stay in the vehicle. So those were some of the things that we would think about when it came to activities, is like, what do we want to do and the cost of that.
Okay. And I saw on your Instagram, you guys went to the Rainbow Hills or the Rainbow Mountain. Is
Rainbow
that
Mountains, yeah.
Patagonia?
No. So there's a few rainbow mountains. There's a bunch of rainbow mountains in northern Argentina and also in Chile. And then like, I think the main ones, the rainbow mountains would be in Peru. So we went to see those, which was incredible. It was the highest elevation I had ever been, which was 5,036 meters.
Okay.
So I could feel that for sure. And those mountains were absolutely incredible to see. Yeah.
Wow. And was that a trek in?
It was, but it was like a 3-hour drive, first of all, through the winding mountains. And then it was a few hours of hiking, but it was so slow because it's such high elevation, right? So
yeah,
it was only a few kilometers, but like we were all feeling it. Like you just do one step and you're like breathing heavily, right? And they had options, like you could take a horse up, but we're like, nope, we're going to do this. We can hike. We know we can do it. And the kids complained a little bit, but to say that they did it and to see like how other people, other adults were not doing it, but we got cheered on so often whenever we were hiking somewhere. People were just cheering us on. They were seeing kids being in South America and hiking. We just got such encouraging words from people, and our kids just felt that, and it was wonderful.
That's amazing. I love that. I love those warm cultures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As a somewhat crunchy mom, I care about the fibers my kids wear. I haven't switched everything over yet, but the one material I am always looking for is merino wool. It comes from sheep and it's processed into fabric that's naturally quick drying, breathable, and temperature regulating. For base layers, especially ones my kids wear repeat on trips, merino wool is my first choice. So I wanted to tell you all about Wee Woolies. They're a Canadian company that specializes in kids' base layers, making ultra soft wool from New Zealand sheep. Their clothing comes in many fun colors, keeping kids warm when it's cold and cool when it's hot. For Let's Go Outside listeners, use the code Let's Go Outside to get 10% off your next Wee Woolies order. The link is in the show notes. I get asked quite a bit about the gear that we use while on international trips, especially about our lightweight playpen that we use. We'll bring that into the rock climbing crag or hike it into a beach and really use it for daytime naps anywhere. And so I put together a travel gear list, and I'm really hoping that this doesn't just cover like basic things that you would find on any travel list, but it's unique to the fact that these are specific things that might not be deemed as travel. And they are things that we have used over the last 5 years of traveling with our kids. So I've also included my kids' favorite activities for the plane and for road tripping as well. We have been really enjoying house sitting lately, and so I also put all the details in there. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, it is all linked in the show notes, so you'll find the link there.
I'm curious, this is not on our list of questions, but if there was a big cost difference between the countries.
Yeah, there was. So there's a few countries we knew would be more expensive. So Chile's a little bit more expensive. Argentina, when we had done our research about a year ago, it was quite a good exchange for a Canadian dollar for the Argentinian peso, but things have changed, and actually it was almost as expensive as Chile. So we kind of had to figure out, okay, how long do we want to stay in Argentina? Do we have the means to do that? Other places like Brazil was quite cheap, Paraguay, Peru was kind of a mix, and Ecuador as well was a mix. Because we also ended up going to the Galapagos Islands as well, so that was a little bit more expensive than on the mainland in Ecuador. Yeah.
And I've heard Bolivia is quite cheap. Is that true?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yes, Bolivia was quite cheap as well. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. We are hoping to do some South American travel soon. So I was curious about that. Bolivia is kind of on the top of our list. And I love hearing that you talked about all those things to do there, because I was inviting friends and they were like, I don't know what much there is to do in Bolivia, but the salt flats and climbing and all that stuff, my kids would absolutely love.
Yeah, and we were also in La Paz for a week, and one of the things that we did was it's called teleferico, but it's a cable car, and they have, I think it's over 11, 12, or I can't remember how many, but they have multiple cable car lines and stations. So we literally spent all day going around La Paz by cable car, and our kids loved it. Like, you're in this little, it looks like a gondola, right? You're in this little gondola and you're just going around the city, and the city is built on a bunch of like mountains and hills. So there's like there's a valley, and so you're going really up high, really steep, and you're like seeing buildings like down below. So you can see the city in a different way, a bird's eye view, and our kids just loved it. And then we got them to kind of learn how to do it. So like, this was the red line and here's the green line. Okay, so our oldest, here's the map, you get us from the green line to the red line. And they were able to kind of maneuver and get themselves to where we wanted to go. And they would count like, this is the station that we're at, and we have to go to the next station. And it was just a great learning experience for them to figure out destinations and maps and stuff too.
Yeah. How lucky they are to do that at 9 years old, right? Not when they're 20 going to college,
Right.
having to navigate a city by themselves. That's really, really cool. I'd love to move into talking about sustainable and eco-conscious travel with you. And I'd be curious to start off if that's something that's always been on your radar, or kind of if there was something that made you start thinking about that.
I would say it was not always on our radar. I definitely feel like having kids has really sparked our interest in wanting to live better lives for the environment. And we love this earth so much and we want to take care of it. And so having kids kind of is like, okay, what is their rest of their life going to look like? I want to do what I can to keep it more sustainable. So I would say that is kind of has been our shift. And so then this international trip was probably our first trip that we were really being intentional to try to be more sustainable and to be more eco-conscious. And I can tell you like loads of stories of how I wasn't. And I can tell you loads of stories of how we're trying to, and how sometimes it has worked and sometimes it hasn't. So I'm like, we're not perfect at this, but we're trying and we think it's really important. And we also want to share that with other people, that this is so important. And we'd love families to be more eco-conscious and sustainable. And also we want to share that like it can be done in fun and creative ways. It doesn't mean all this, no, you can't do this, you can't do that. But what you get to do is pretty incredible. Like we have so many experiences of kind of thinking outside the box and then finding these hidden gems and these activities that we've been doing that end up being like our highlights. And had we just been doing like the traditional, this is how to travel, or this is what you go and do, then we wouldn't have gotten those experiences. So I want to like try to like change people's mindsets on what sustainable travel is and what eco-friendly travel is. And that's not just a bunch of no's, it's a bunch of yeses. And You can feel good about yourself that you're trying and have some great experiences.
Yeah.
So it's not something that was on my radar for a very long time. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Would you share for everyone listening about some of the ways that you've been learning that are contributing to the environment in quite a negative way, and what steps you are taking with your family?
Yeah. So unfortunately, like, flying is really bad. And I really didn't know that it was. I just kept thinking, like, when you're in a car, it's really good to have other people in the car. Or if you're on a bus, you're really saving on carbon emissions because there's so many people in a bus, right? So I just thought, like, well, we're in an airplane where with so many people, doesn't it make sense? Like, I can see how, like, a private jet is not the greatest, it's not efficient, right? But like, if you have so many people in an airplane, then isn't that better? But doing some research and finding out that the carbon emissions are so high that if you can try to not travel by flying as much, that's really going to help reduce your carbon footprint. So that's something that we have taken quite seriously. So our 7-year-old, that was his first flight ever, was going to South America. So we haven't flown in a while, but we used to. Again, I just want to say, like, when we were living in Morocco, we took multiple flights for a very short amount of time because it's just so cheap and it's just right there. But I think moving forward and knowing this information, like, you don't know what you don't know. So now we know, and we know we're going to try and do better in that, trying not to fly as much. And there's also ways that you can reduce, if you do need to fly, there's ways to try to minimize some of that impact. And so I don't know if you are familiar with Skyscanner, but that's just a great way also just to budget, to see where are flights the cheapest. But it also, I don't know if you've noticed now, it has like a little spot where it says CO2 emissions. So you can see which flights have a higher emission than others.
Okay.
So that really did help us out. And we have kind of been learning that taking short flights are not as efficient and are a little bit worse on the environment than taking a long haul flight, because of it's the taking off and the landing that really do take up a lot of gas and a lot of effort. If you can kind of, instead of kind of hopping a lot with flights, is to try to take a longer flight. So that's kind of the biggest one, is to reduce your carbon footprint, and in flying is the biggest thing. So, like, can you do local things? Like, there's a lot of places that are probably near where people live that you can explore. Can you take buses or trains to get your destination? Any kind of public transportation like that is really going to help you. So that's probably one of the biggest ways that we can do that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And like you said, it was the buses. You did pursue that and do a lot of South American buses, which I don't think is the easiest way to get around. Like, I remember being in Ecuador and they were like, this road is going to take you a really, really long time. And only recently has it gotten easier. And so I'm assuming that's probably like it for the rest of the continent. But I'm not going to put all of it in one box. But I'm sure there's certain sections.
Like some countries would be better than others with busing. We didn't do a lot of busing in Ecuador, but we did a lot in Chile and Argentina and Paraguay. And also, like, some buses were better than others. So we had some, like in Bolivia, we had one very, very cold bus ride, but it still is something that we could do. Yes, you're right. It takes longer. If you fly, obviously it's going to take a shorter amount of time than it is to bus. But I guess because we had so much time on our hands, that was an easy decision for us to make. So if you have to make those decisions, maybe a question to ask yourself is, like, if you are flying to a destination, can you try to stay more local and travel slower so that you're not having to take another in-country flight? Can you bus, or can you train, or can you rent a vehicle and drive around as well? So those are kind of things that can help you with figuring that out as well.
Mm-hmm. And what about packing?
Yeah, so packing, I mean, for us, we each had a backpack, and we tried to pack as light as possible, because first of all, I don't want to lug big backpack that's heavy for like 5 months. And nor do the kids. They had a little backpack each for themselves too. But that also cuts down, like, so the less weight that you have, the less weight is going to be on a flight, which is also going to help, or less weight on a bus or in a car. So just packing quite light really helps. Then also, like, reducing your plastic. So we brought our bamboo toothbrushes with us. We brought reusable bags because we did so much grocery shopping. We didn't want to collect all that plastic, so we brought bags with us. And then you can also buy bags out there too. There's lots of like little totes that you can buy and bring that around. We also did bar soap and bar shampoo and bar conditioner. We brought that from home. So those are just little ways that we try to cut down on our single-use plastic.
And I love how transferable that is, right? Like that stuff that you're thinking about in Canada and you can keep doing it traveling. And I think that's something that I have learned more with traveling with Daniel is take the practices you do at your home and do it on holidays, or do it while you're traveling. I think often we think like holidays changes everything and we splurge and we do all these things, but you can still, do these practices and practice our values while we're international.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Any other points about sustainable travel that you want to share with us?
I would say, so another few kind of things that are within the sustainability is like respecting cultures and learning from them. So one of the things that we love to do is just to be a part of what's going on, and celebrations and festivals are great ways to kind of plug in. It was in February, so it was Carnival, and we were in Argentina at the time. And so there's just a huge celebration, and we went to a little plaza, and there were people, the locals had beautiful costumes on, lots of sequins and colors, and they had their faces painted, and there was some drumming and dancing. There's all the locals that are around and watching, cheering, and we got to be a part of that, and that was just a fun experience for our kids. Like we don't have that experience in Canada to see that, so that was really good. And then of course there's always like food being sold there. There's lots of cotton candy. So there's guys with sticks of cotton candy, and our kids like, can we have some cotton candy? And they maybe had cotton candy once in their life, like years ago. So they had no idea what they're getting themselves into, but they really wanted it. I'm like, oh, it's cultural. I guess we should give them cotton candy. So we did. And then they ended up, they put it in their mouths and they're like, yay. And then like the next bite they put in, they're like, eh, and they actually didn't like it. So like they were complaining to get it, and then they were complaining that they didn't like it. And we're like, of course, kids, traveling with kids, that just happens, that they're going to complain. They're kids. They do what they do, whether they're traveling or not. But it was funny. It ended up being hilarious that we bought them cotton candy at this fun cultural experience, and then they didn't like it. But they loved the dancing. They loved seeing that. They were just in awe of what they were seeing. And then also what else did we do that we got to be part of? In Bolivia, it's called Cholita wrestling, and it's women in traditional clothing, and they wrestle. So we went to a wrestling event, and like a backstory about these women is that like they're not doing it just for entertainment. They're actually doing it for empowerment, and there's a lot of domestic violence that was happening, and they took on this wrestling and persona to say like, no, look at this, look what we can do. We are powerful, and we need to what is happening in our lives. Domestic violence is not okay. And so they took it for themselves to be more empowered. And so I'm like, yes, this is amazing. We need to support women. And so we did that, and that was fun. And that was again a very cultural experience, very different. And the kids had to learn how to cheer. Like being a fan is a really big thing. So cheering for the good or the bad guy and the good guy. So we had a really good experience doing that. So doing sustainability is learning about culture and being respectful. And so I think that, we were able to get some of those experiences that, you can read about in a book, but being right there and being a part of it is where you really get a lot of the learning.
So cool. And maybe lastly about this topic, I believe you went to Galapagos Island and volunteered. Mm-hmm. Do you want to share about that?
Yeah. So I would say, like, again, with being eco-conscious and sustainable, what are ways that you can give back? So can you find an organization and pick up trash? Can you water a garden that supports, families that need help? So one of the things that we did it was for our kids to learn, but also to give back too, was to work at this sustainable farm in the Galapagos Islands. Our kids just got firsthand, what does sustainability mean, and what does that mean on a farm? And the owner and the workers were incredible. So, they're using they're collecting rainwater, and then they're using that on their organic farm. And so we got to be a part of like watering the organic farm. And they are planting endemic species. So endemic means plants that are only on this certain island or in the Galapagos Islands. And those are very much needed because these certain plants that are in the island, certain animals eat or use it as their habitat. And so if you don't have those, then you don't have the animals. So we learned about how to plant these. Like we were reforesting. That's what the sustainable farm was doing as well. So we got to be part of planting some plants. And then also we were doing some data collection as well. And so the kids got to tag some plants. So number 5, 10. And then also they learned that we need to also collect some data on like, how is the plant doing? What is the size of the plant? Are there any bugs that are on the plant? So we would record that information for the farm as well. We got to pick a whole bunch of oranges. We made a lot of orange juice, which our kids loved, and eat a million of bananas. And the kids really learned what it was to live sustainably. And had they read that in a book, how much does that actually get in them? But now they know that what they've done, right? They've planted an endemic species. They didn't know that word before, and now they do. So we learned through doing, and it was such a great experience.
Aww. Thank you for sharing that. That is very encouraging and eye-opening, and to hear other families doing that. So really appreciate that.
And also just like with the local workers, one of the workers lives on the farm, and in the evenings we would play a game. So we taught him a card game, and then one day it was Ecuador was playing soccer, and so he was saying that he was going to go to town and watch the game, and then he invited us to come, and so we're like, yes, of course. So we went to a little restaurant, and we were with him, and we were watching a soccer game or football match with Ecuador. And then a day later, then we love hockey, and there was the hockey playoffs. And so we invited him to watch hockey with us. So it's in the evening, and we're all huddled around it was an iPad that we had, and we were kind of showing him what our culture is too, which was a fun experience to have that as well. And so when he would see just a big hit, or there was a little bit of fighting, and he was just like, what's going on? It was hilarious to see his reaction to how hockey gets played.
Yeah, I think part of my favorite thing about traveling is connecting with the locals and those kind of opportunities where you get to share and experience together. So
yeah,
thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
As we close out, would you share your favorite moment with your kids on this trip that you just went on?
Sure. I think we were in the Patagonia Mountains, and there was a hike that Chris and I wanted to do. It was 26 kilometers, and we thought, okay, we'll climb maybe halfway with our kids, and then maybe Chris will go first and basically run up and come back, and then maybe I can go and come back. And so we kind of had a plan that at least one or two of us would be able to finish this hike, because the hike is called Laguna de los Tres, or it's also you go to Mount Fitzroy. So Patagonia, the company, the clothing and gear company, their logo, it kind of goes like this. It's the mountains, is literally this mountain that we wanted to see. So we're like, how do we do that? But we're like, our kids have not hiked 26 kilometers. They've only hiked 13 was the most that we had gotten our kids to hike. But they actually did it. So we all did it as a family, which is amazing. It took us forever and a lot of candy, but we did it. It was absolutely... I was in tears by the time that we got to the top, because I just was so impressed with our kids, and I was so proud of them, and they were so tired, and then the view was incredible. There's a reason why it's a famous hike to go on, and there's a few little lakes and the mountains in the background, and it's just picturesque. And so we did it. So the kids hiked 26 kilometers in a day. We left super early in the morning and we got back late, but they did it. Our oldest, we brought 12 boiled eggs with us, and he ate 7 boiled eggs. So we were so tired, but there was definitely a lot of candy that was involved in it.
I love that. That's so beautiful. What's one unique tip you have for moms who want to explore more?
Yeah, I think I have 2 if I can. I would say one is find other parents, whether that's another family or moms, that also like going outside, because that's going to motivate you to get outside. Even just like last night, we were at home inside and a friend texted me and she's like, hey, let's go to this park with our kids. And I was like, I don't want to go outside. Oh, I should do it. So it was just really like, it was a perfect text. Let's go. Like, I wouldn't have gone outside had it not been for her. And then our kids were playing and they were having a great time, and we could walk around a track while the kids were playing. So we got to have some, friend time. So that was really, really perfect. And so finding those friends that can help you, encourage you, go outside, and you can have a fun time with them, and the kids can be with other kids, is just fantastic. So I find that's an easy way for me to get outside more. And then another one I would say is, what do you want to do outside? Like as a mom, like I honestly, I'll say this, I don't really like playgrounds because it doesn't benefit me. Like I feel like the kids, yes, they get to play and they can have fun, but I'm just sort of standing there and watching, or I have to help them. When they're really little, then, you're kind of also on the playground and you're doing the stuff. But now that I have a 9 and 7-year-old, I don't have to follow them around. I can sit and watch them or kind of walk around and do my own thing. But I'm more motivated to get outside with my kids if it's something that I like to do. And that's kind of selfish, but it's also not, because then it gets your family outside more, it gets your kids outside more. Biking is an example of us. We love to bike, and that's an easy way for me to want to get outside more. It's such a motivation for me. So it's like, okay, I love to bike, let's go bike. And my kids love to do it too. So those are, I would say, like having that in the back of your brain. Like if you're thinking, oh, let's go to the playground again, but you don't really want to go, then how does that motivate you to get outside? And you are kind of the initiator, right, to get your kids outside as a parent. So having that motivation, what do I like to do? I like to do this, this, and this, then that's going to help me get outside. I guess those are my 2 things.
Yeah, thank you, Carolyn. As we close, would you share where people can continue to hear what sustainable travel looks like for you guys and what adventures you guys are up to? And I know you guys like to do lots of winter biking too. Maybe that's a conversation for another day, but how can people connect and follow along with your family?
Yeah, so we've been sharing about our trip. I know that we're back, but I'm still sharing about what we've been doing. I'll share different videos or posts on Instagram. So our Instagram handle is @prairie.crew. And we call ourselves Prairie Crew Adventures, because that's where we're from and we love to adventure. And so we're just kind of sharing and encouraging and hopefully inspiring families to get outside, whether that is to get outside in winter bike, which is something that we do, or just to go camping or hiking. And then also, like I said, the last few months, it's just all been about traveling, but then also not just traveling, but having that slant or that lens of how can we do travel sustainably? How can we do it in a more eco-conscious way? And so we are still learning how to do this. We have so many mistakes that we've made, but we're on a journey of figuring it out, and we want other families to get on board and to figure it out too. So we have mostly on Instagram is where I have most of my information. I also have a website as well. So I have some blogs as well on there. So if you ever want to come to Manitoba, I have lots of information on that. And I should say is that Manitoba is really special. And one of the things that we got to do a few years ago was to see beluga whales and polar bears in Churchill, Manitoba. And so I have a whole bunch of information on that on our website. And so our website is prairiecrewadventures.ca. So there's lots of information there. And I also have, if you've ever been to a Manitoba provincial park, I have some collectibles, some magnets and stickers as well to collect. So you can find that on our website too.
That's so fun. Thank you so much. I will put all that stuff in the show notes along with the things that we mentioned today. Thank you.
That sounds great. Thank you.
I just wanted to say thank you for being here. If it sparked something in you or made you think of a friend, would you please send it their way? Word of mouth is everything for this growing little podcast community, and I'm super grateful for everyone sharing. So like always, I've dropped all the links of the places we've talked about and maybe any gear recommendations in the show notes, so check it out there, and we'll catch you next time.